Sometimes we think we understand a word, a concept, inside and out. But what if I told you there's a 2,500-year-old story that completely flips one of those big ideas on its head? We're talking about the concept of sacrifice. And trust me, by the end of this, you might not think of that word in the same way ever again.
So let's just start with this question right off the bat. What if the greatest sacrifice you could ever make involved no sacrifice at all? No pain, no loss, no bloodshed. Sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? Well, stick with me. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're going way back to ancient India. And our main character is a man named Kūṭadanta. Now, this guy is a big deal. He's a Brahmin, which means he's a super respected, incredibly wealthy scholar. And he's got a plan, a massive plan. So what's he planning? It's called a Mahayana. In Pali, that means the great sacrifice. And look, this isn't your average Sunday service. We're talking about a huge, super complex, and really expensive ritual. The whole point was to basically lock in good fortune for the long haul. In his time, this was the ultimate way to show you were both pious and powerful. It was the biggest flex. And when I say great, I'm not kidding. The scale of this thing is just mind-boggling. Kūṭadanta had gathered literally thousands of animals for this offering. I mean, just look at these numbers. We're talking 700 of each. Bulls, rams, goats, just try to picture it. Huge fields filled with all these animals, all prepared for this one single ritual. The sheer scale is just, wow. But here's the thing. Even with all this prep, Kūṭadanta has this nagging feeling, a little bit of doubt. He's thinking this has to be absolutely perfect. And right when he's feeling this uncertainty, a rumor starts to spread through town. There's this incredibly wise teacher, the Buddha, who happens to be staying in a nearby grove. And the rumor is very specific. It's not just that the Buddha is wise. People are saying he knows the secret ingredient, the perfect recipe for a successful sacrifice, the exact way to do it. For Kūṭadanta, who wants everything to be perfect, this is, well, it's an opportunity he just can't pass up. Okay, but there's a catch. His buddies, the other high-status Brahmins, they're freaking out. They're telling him you can't go see that guy. You're Kūṭadanta. He's a wandering ascetic with nothing to his name. It's completely beneath you. But Kūṭadanta, he sees something they don't. He sees that the Buddha's real wealth is his wisdom. So he basically tells them to take a hike and goes anyway. So he goes to the Buddha, and he doesn't beat around the bush. He asks a very direct, very practical question. He says, look, I want to perform this great sacrifice. Can you please teach me the best way to do it so I get the most happiness and welfare out of it? He's not asking for some deep spiritual secret. He's basically asking for the instruction manual. And this is where everything changes. The Buddha's response is not what you'd expect. He doesn't pull out a scroll and give him a list of instructions. No. Instead, he just says, listen, and starts telling a story. A story about a legendary king from long ago who, wouldn't you know it, also wanted to perform a great sacrifice. So in this story within a story, the king goes to his advisor, this really wise priest, for help with his own grand sacrifice. But the advisor basically hits the brakes. He tells the king straight up, Your Majesty, we've got a problem. The kingdom is full of crime and poverty. People are struggling. The message is so powerful, right? You can't perform a sacred act when the society it's built on is falling apart. Now, the king's first thought is what you might expect. Let's just crush the criminals. More punishments. But the advisor comes back with this truly radical idea. He says, no, that's not going to work. It'll just make everything worse. He argues that you can't punish your way out of this problem. You have to solve it at its source. You have to fix the economy. And the plan he lays out is shockingly modern. It's basically a three-point economic policy. First, for anyone who wants to farm, give them seeds and tools. Second, for anyone in trade, give them the capital to get started. And third, for anyone working for the government, pay them a decent wage. It's so simple, but so brilliant. Give people the means to prosper, and they will. And guess what? It worked. Like, it worked perfectly. Crime just disappeared. The treasury was full, and the people were so prosperous and felt so safe that the story says they left their doors unlocked. They could just relax and play with their kids in the street. The kingdom was peaceful and it was thriving. Okay, so now, only now that the kingdom is stable and happy, is it time for the sacrifice. But the kind of sacrifice the advisor proposes, well, it's nothing like what Kūṭadanta was planning back in his own village.
This sacrifice was completely different. There were no animals killed. Not one.
No trees were chopped down. Nobody was forced to work. Everyone who helped did it willingly, joyfully. And the offerings? Instead of blood, it was just ghee, oil, butter, honey. Simple, wholesome things. This wasn't about violence. It was a celebration of the kingdom's prosperity. So the Buddha finishes his story. And then comes the big reveal. He tells Kūṭadanta that in a previous life, he was that wise advisor to the king. You can imagine Kūṭadanta is just floored. But the Buddha doesn't stop there. He leans in and asks, so, that was a pretty great sacrifice, right? But what if I told you there's an even better one that's easier and gives an even bigger payoff? And this question leads us to the real heart of the teaching, the grand finale, if you will. The Buddha starts to lay out what you can only call a ladder of giving. It's a hierarchy of sacrifice, where each step up is way more powerful than the last. So the first rung on the ladder, even better than that amazing bloodless sacrifice, is something called dana. It just means regular giving or generosity, specifically providing regular support to people who are living a virtuous spiritual life. Just that simple act of consistent giving is already a better sacrifice. What's better than that? The next rung up is building a shelter for the spiritual community, a place for them to gather. Think of it like building a community center or a monastery. Why is this better? Because you're creating a space that helps not just one person, but many on their path. Okay, now the ladder takes a really interesting turn. We're moving from external actions to internal ones. So an even better sacrifice than building something physical is to sincerely take refuge. This is a commitment of the heart. It means putting your trust in the Buddha, his teachings, the Dhamma, and the community, the Sangha. And we're still climbing. What's even more powerful than taking refuge? Living by the 5 precepts. This is about sacrificing your own unskillful habits. You're giving up harming living things, stealing, lying, and so on. Think about it. When you do this, you're literally giving the gift of safety to everyone around you. That's a huge deal. So, what's at the very, very top? The pinnacle of sacrifice. It's the inner work of developing a peaceful, clear mind. The ultimate offering is to sacrifice your own greed, your own anger, your own confusion. That is the highest sacrifice of all. There's nothing better because it leads directly to true freedom and wisdom. And hearing all this, Kūṭadanta gets it. He completely gets it. The transformation is instant. He stands up right then and there and declares, I'm setting them all free. All 700 bulls, all the goats, all of them. He wishes them peace and cool water. He totally abandons his old plan and embraces this much deeper internal path. So you see, this ancient story does something incredible. It takes the idea of sacrifice and turns it completely inside out. It's no longer about a big, violent external show. It becomes a personal journey of growth, a path that moves from giving things to giving safety to others, and finally to giving up the negativity within ourselves, which kind of leaves us with a big question to think about, doesn't it? What does a meaningful sacrifice mean to you, right here, right now?